What's good, YouTube? And welcome to the house. The results are in for the top 16 of the NA-YCS. We also have the top 32 and the deck breakdown, and then top 32 for the YCS European one as well. Remote duels have been crazy, to say the least. Stories of people getting kicked out of the room for asking how a sandwich was, and then going into time every round with MBT. But that's neither here nor there. Let's go ahead and get into some of these decks. Thank you, Rob Keck, for helping source, of course. We have to start with 6 Tri-Brigades topping in the 32 for the North American YCS. I believe this was 1800 Duelist or something crazy. Correct me if I was wrong. Also, I have Blade here joining me, by the way, who did top and top 16. Do you know how many duels total we're in?
Yeah, I don't know the exact number, but I'm pretty sure it was around like 2,000.
It was crazy. People were telling me
yeah.
it barely missed top 64 happening.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I don't remember. I know one of the YCSs had 1,796 people, but I forget which one that was.
Rob Keck just said 1874 for North America. All right, let's get into top cut breakdowns real quick. We have 6 Tri-Brigades topping in the US. We have 5 Drytrons, one of them being Blade YGO. We have 4 Strikers, so Ray being Bay did appear to be back for a bit, but that'll slim down to just 1 in the top 16. Pretty crazy deficit there. We had 4 Virtual Worlds as well. I believe Kali Effect has been most on this deck coming out the gate, and the deck should not be underestimated, is something I was saying too. 2 Adignisters. I don't know that either of them top 16s though. We have 2 Prank Kids in there as well, and then we break it down to 1 Dragon Link, 1 Salamangreat, 1 Dinosaur player, as well as Dogmatica Shadol Invoked. We just can't stop. Oh, ruined the surprise. Cyber Dragon coming out. I told you guys not to underestimate that this format, and it was so insane to see it actually get in the top cut. I believe the Duelist will be posting the deck profile, as he did not top 16, sadly. But it's so cool to see it back out here. And you have the Cyber Strike structure decks, of course, coming, making it easier for people to play the deck. You also did have Dragoon Eldritch. Oh boy, let's hear the complaints. 1 Dragoon deck topping with Eldritch. Boy, it's unfair. 1 Dragoon Eldritch deck. And then Phantom Knights was a pretty big surprise to see in the top cut as well. It's a deck that got a lot of power. You now have Rusty Bardish completely unlimited. This then thins down in the top 16 to 3 Tri-Brigade decks, 3 Virtual World decks, maybe the most resilient, going from just 4 to 3 within top cut. You have 2 Drytron players left, 1 being Blade, with a little bit of spice he might be talking about later. Only 1 Sky Striker player left, though. Still 2 Prank Kids, losing neither player. You still have the Dragon Link in the top 16. You still have the Salamangreat in the top 16. You still have the Phantom Knight in the top 16, I believe. Wait, am I saying all this right? Yeah. This is the right list. And then Dragoon Eldritch and Mech Knight Orcust making it in as well. I don't know a ton about the Mech Knight Orcust list currently as I'm speaking. I don't know which, of the Mech Knights they end up playing, but it's really cool to see Orcust in there, and I have to imagine they're probably utilizing some kind of scrap combo, but I do not know anything about the list, so I'm speaking out my A. We see the drop of Adignisters, kinda sad. I've been hyped for that deck, but huge tower boss monster isn't the most exciting thing in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! So, starting with Blade here. Blade, how was your tournament experience? How are things going for you? And what do you want to say, without giving away too much of your deck since you're still competing?
Yeah, so I think like the YCS itself was really, I guess I would say, interesting, because obviously it's the first remote duel YCS, and obviously there's going to be a ton of flaws with it. There's going to be some people, that are going to be more fishy than others, whether their camera freezes or whatnot.
Ooh.
So you always have to be careful with playing in the remote duel YCS, but I would say there were definitely a ton of stories afterwards, but I think it is something to be thinking about in the future. It is definitely an event that I think is fun, especially as time progresses. We'll get this to be more refined over time. And yeah, I mean, I made top 32 and then qualified for top 16 in 2 weeks. Or I think it's 2 weeks. For me specifically, I played Drytron. Nothing I guess I won't share too much about my list, but the one thing I do want to say is, For anyone, I don't know how standard Draconids is, the level 12 ritual that pops things on the opponent's turn. This card overperformed for me over the weekend, however. For example, I played against Salamangreat round 8, and he activated Sanctum, and I was like, okay, cool, I can play through this and the other hand traps by summoning Draconids through Sanctum, clearing his entire board, and he didn't have a good answer to my Draconids being able to send cards they control to the grave. So I guess you could say Draconids is like the Heraldic seal of the deck, because when you get hand trapped to Oblivion, and when you get Drolled, for example, Draconids is one of the big answers to all of those cards.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't respect the grind state in Yu-Gi-Oh! When talking theory, and you just exemplified what it takes to top an event, is not only practicing through the grind state, but also thinking about routes after getting hand trapped, and people sleep on that so much in modern testing. They're just like, oh, this deck is good because of this, and it's like, well, what about these situations? Actually playing things out, making people play things out, and seeing how they're going, it is so important to test things like that, and you're just straight on point showing why you're topping events while talking.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And like 1000%, like you said, the important thing is like that a lot of people don't recognize about playing a deck is one, like you said, John, especially this format. I mean, I felt it throughout the YCS. You have to be able to grind right now. It's not a format where the dice roll determines everything. Obviously, I played Drytron, which the die roll, if you win the die roll, you're in a lot better of a position than you would be otherwise. But even then, I mean, going second, you have to make sure you're good in the grind game and know how to play it out. And like you also said, keeping in mind what cards are in the metagame are very crucial in order to be successful. If everyone's playing Droll and Lockbird in the main deck, then it may be harder to do well with Drytron.
Yeah, just speaking of grind states, almost every single deck either utilizes their graveyard as resources like Tri-Brigade, actually has a back and forth state like Virtual Worlds, Sky Striker going to time almost every single freaking round just like it used to. Prank Kids has an OTK behind a grind state and resource game. Then you have Salamangreat recycling resources. Very few of these decks, if any, aren't grindy. Also getting into the EU Top Cut real quick, I forgot to get that, some of the differences. Guru Control, one of the grindiest decks, ended up topping, but so did one of the best OTK decks in Madolches, which people had kind of been sleeping on again, like, oh, I sleep, it's not gonna... Oh, it ended up OTKing its way to the top. So, different kind of things going back and forth, but Madolche now even has a grind state with negates, and if they lose a dice roll and are forced to go first because people know what their deck is, they can set up things that prolong and help them out. Orcust are one of the ultimate decks at being able to double advantage within the graveyard and recycle their resources. So I don't know a single deck in this format, for the most part, that doesn't utilize that and end up doing things on further turns. Drytrons end up being a resource in later turns when they're in the graveyard specifically too. Every single deck, for the most part, isn't just trying to OTK your face, and besides maybe Cyber Dragons and Madolches, almost every deck we have listed here has a huge grind state and backup resources, and it's, you don't want to be caught not having tested against these decks, basically.
Oh, 1000%. Like, I think the format right now is actually really good. There is not like one deck that is just above everything else by far. I think last format, for example, Dragon Link got to the point where it just felt like it was just the best deck and that nothing else was really as good as it. But now it's like, you know, you could play Tri-Brigade, you could play Drytron, Virtual World. All of these decks have their own strengths and weaknesses, but none of them are like going to be the correct choice for an event.
Yeah, it's not like tier 0, this is the deck to beat. Exactly. I would say coming into this format, due to the presence of Herald, a lot of people felt like Drytron was the deck to beat, and you see people, you know, starting to play Dweller. I was on Dweller before a lot of people. I was like, every single deck, Dweller's really good against them. I'm seeing more Dwellers hit fields, I'm seeing stuff like that, so like, people have adapted especially for this format, but you throw in a weakness against one deck, you could play a different deck every single round, as we're seeing from Top Cut. You could have played a different kind of deck that topped throughout all 9 of your rounds.
It's actually hilarious you mentioned that, because I played a different deck almost every single round. The only deck that I played multiples of was Tri-Brigade. If you want, I can go through the representation real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like each round. So yeah, so round 1 I played Go Second Trains. Round 2 I played the mirror match. Round 3 was my only loss against Sky Striker because they opened Dark Ruler Mystic Mine game 3. It'd be like that.
Ooh.
Round 4 was Tri Brigade. Round 5 was Tri Brigade. Round 6 was Altergeist. Round 7 was Virtual World. Round 8 was Salamangreat. Round 9 was Numeron OTK. Round 10 was Infernoble, and round 11 was Shaddoll Invoke Dogmatica, and then top 32 was Addingnister.
That's insane. And also some of the decks that are just underlying that didn't top. Numeron is something that I've been playing around with for funsies, and then also Infernoble Knights is something people are heavy sleeping on that keeps being in top rated on Dueling Book right now. So it's like there's, to point out, even more decks you need to prepare for than what's in Top Cut here in both places.
Oh no, 1000%. It's a very diverse format, especially when the format's just starting, like right now, is going to be when the format's most diverse. So I think if there's, I mean, obviously the YCS is over, but if there's a perfect time to get into a format, I think this is a great format to get into.
And you have the Megatins coming, of course, using code What's Good 5 for 5% off. Support the channel directly, Smile. Anybody else in Open Chat have anything else to add to the conversation, by the way? I know Blade and I have been taking up a lot of the room here.
A rather surprising thing about the Tri-Brigade Top Cut is that in the 32 Top Cut, there was an Ancient Warrior Tri-Brigade build, and I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty good, because the thing about the one thing with Ancient Warriors is that Ancient Warriors, I don't know if they have this monster currently, but there's Ancient Warriors Lu Bu, and during each main phase, it can just straight up destroy a card on the field, outside of its negative restriction of switching during the end phase. But like each main phase, your main phase 2, opponent's main phase 2, just destroys a card on the field. That's powerful.
I'm so bad at finding which one you're talking about. But, yeah, Ancient, I believe that was EU, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know how their build is built either, but I was very interested to see when I saw the words Ancient Warriors mixed in. I was like, did they actually, like, go for it? Because this is another deck that, like, while it relies a lot on normal summoning and doing what it does, then Tri-Brigade doesn't always have to normal summon. That's what's great about it. It's, like, kind of going for those weaknesses. And somebody said Lu Feng is, I think, what you're talking about, maybe. Not sure.
Yeah, his name is Lu Feng, my bad.
It's all good. Anybody else have anything to add?
I actually want to see the Phantom Knights list mainly because I want to see if they're playing Utopic Draco future, because people are having that card a lot.
Yeah, that's one of the only decks in Top Cut that could have represented that new card or got powered up by it overall. I mean, there were the Zoo players as well, but it would have been slower getting there, I feel, the Tri-Brigade Zodiac from the EU. So I do feel like that was one huge difference I don't think we actually did cover is how many Zoo Tri-Brigades was it? Let me go back to this conversation. It was a grand total of 6 Zodiac Tri-Brigades at the top. So that would be the only other deck maybe on F-Zero. Oh, F-Zero wasn't legal? Okay, so yeah, I guess people had to turn in their deck list ahead of time before confirming they'd have it, or I guess King's Court wasn't allowed to be played?
Yeah, so what they said in the YCS was that King's Court isn't allowed. You can use reprints like Lightning Storm. Those are allowed, but you can't use like the new cards.
Wow!
Yeah.
So the Zoo Tri-Brigades were just natural.
No, exactly. Like this was the last YCS without King's Court being legal.
All right, well, thanks for joining me, Blade. Good luck on taking it down. I'd love to see you take first place, rep the Yugi Tubers. Also, great to get your second Premier top if people don't remember him with Salad and Enemy Controller and some of those spicy techs. But we'll see the list, of course, later on your channel, I presume, once the event is over.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, I need to get back to uploading more consistently. I've been slacking, but 1000% at some point, like, presumably after the top 16, I'll definitely be doing a deck profile.
Thanks for watching, everybody.